I'm going to do this quick live stream because I have to do 3 more things today, and we may be doing 3 live streams. But my morning this morning, I'm going to wait for people to come in and make sure the mic is okay. But my morning this morning started with a code enforcement hearing in the Los Gatos Town Library. And we're going to walk over there. Good morning, Johnny Bravo. I'm glad you popped in because I'm going to do a little walking. And I started, well, actually, I finished here at the town hall chasing some attorneys. And we're going to talk about bad attorneys and code enforcement officers and this hearing that I just went through. And I want to take you and show you that I was noticed for this hearing, which normally they don't give public notice of a code enforcement hearing. And so code enforcement hearings are administrative proceedings. And, sorry, I'm filming, walking, talking, and going downstairs at the same time. And code enforcement hearings are administrative proceedings, and administrative proceedings don't need to be presided over an attorney or a judge. And this morning, I was told that there was going to be an attorney presiding over this case. And I got notice of this code enforcement hearing related to a woman who has been placing political signs. She's rather conservative. She's rather controversial in the town, and she's been placing political signs in her yard. And the code enforcement proceedings were being conducted as a threat, really, to start fining and sanctioning people, and the woman with the political signs. And for those of you who aren't aware of what code enforcement in your town or local government can do, it can literally result in you getting so much in the way of penalties, sanctions, fines, and fees that you may eventually lose your home. And so we're covering these code enforcement hearings and the procedures to see if they are fair. And you may recall from my last videos that I have been chasing down the private judge, Jeff Blum, who was the individual who presided over the first code enforcement hearing. The second hearing, he was removed, and the second hearing was held here in the Los Gatos Library at 9 o'clock this morning. And I just posted the video of it on my Twitter account this morning while I was in the proceeding. But I was told that I had to go to the library before it was open, and we had to go around to this back door and go in through the back of the library because the library was closed, but the hearing was open to the public. And when I arrived, the code enforcement hearing officer and one of the witnesses were sitting outside, but I literally had to go in that little shady back door of the library where they keep books and games, and I did record that on my way in this morning. And so I call it basement justice because that's what it felt like. And then when I was in the code enforcement hearing, there was this grumpy old Lance Bear who is an attorney, and he's a contract attorney with the town. And I didn't like some of the things he had done in the last hearing, because what he did was when I walked in and started recording, he said, "Oh, let the record reflect. Somebody's in here recording." And he tried to get me to stop being able to record. And the private judge, who was the hearing officer in that, Jeff Blum, said, "Oh, I don't have a problem with her recording." What they didn't say was at the very beginning of the hearing, they had actually already started recording. And the government cannot one-way record us back. That happens in our courthouses, but it sure isn't going to happen in a public library when it's a code enforcement hearing. I then also spoke with the town attorney, and after the hearing was over today, I told them that I believed that they had been violating what we call Business and Professions Code 6068. And what that code says is that no individual attorney is allowed to lie or make a material omission to a hearing officer in a proceeding, a tribunal, a court, anything. Attorneys may not omit evidence that is relevant that they know could influence a decision. And I believe that I just witnessed 2 licensed attorneys doing that today. I told them so. I put it on camera. I'll be making a video about that later on. But this involves a very controversial resident. It's about speech and your right to be able to put up signs about who you endorse politically. And we're going to be talking about that a little bit more later. They cited some various codes and lawsuits, and they were being very careful in the proceeding to talk about that their code enforcement was about the size and the quantity of the signs and not the content of speech. And when there are governmental actions against people, they have to make sure that it is content neutral, because if they are targeting you for your speech, then that is unconstitutional. So we started with this hearing, and believe it or not, this hearing is actually related to a number of other things that we're doing today, because this was a town code enforcement hearing, and I'm going from here down to the voting office to look up the voting records of a city council member in San Jose who filed a restraining order lawsuit against a little Instagram creator who, Eastside San Jose Times, and he hired a lawyer and slapped that lawsuit. And that is something that people do when they throw a lawsuit out of court saying that your activity was protected speech. And that little creator won the lawsuit. He and his attorney won that lawsuit. The judge in the case was Judge Eric Geffen, and he did rule favorably for him. In full disclosure, Judge Geffen was one of the criminal judges assigned to the great photograph case that I was prosecuted under for 6 years. And he could have thrown that case out anytime, but instead he allowed 70 hearings to go on and the DA to continue to try to put me in jail. And if you're following me, you might also be following the Kentucky lawyer Christine Miller, who was arrested last week, and we're going to be talking about lawyers and journalists who are arrested, especially when we're reporting on family court. And then after I go down and get the records from the voting office, I'm going to go cover the Court of Appeal hearing. So you may get 3 live streams from me today, and believe it or not, it's all connected to Judge Eric Geffen, to the town of Los Gatos, and to the issue of bad attorneys who are lying to courts, leaving out evidence, and punching down on individuals who don't have attorneys and might not have the mental capacity to be going through some of these proceedings. So I'm leaving this up. I just wanted to document this, let you know what I'm doing today, and I hope you'll watch for my other lives. I know this is a little early, but if we get one more in from the voting office and one more after the Court of Appeal, and longer videos will follow later. And all of this is about the fairness of courts, local government, and believe it or not, we're going to connect the police officers and First Amendment retaliation to all of it. So thanks you guys for popping in so I could document this morning, and look forward to seeing you on 2 more live streams today.